So, homeopathy. You've probably heard the name thrown around, right? But what is it really? It's a medical system that's been around for over 200 years, and it has some very distinct principles. Well, in this explainer, we're going to break down exactly how it works, straight from the perspective of those who actually practice it. Now, just so you know where we're coming from, all the information we're talking about today is pulled directly from this one source, the Encyclopedia of Homeopathy by Dr. Andrew Lockie. Our whole goal here is just to lay out the ideas in this guide as clearly as we can so you can really get a feel for the system from a practitioner's point of view. All right, so here's the game plan. We'll kick things off with the big question. What is homeopathy? Then we'll dive into why it's all about the patient, not just the symptoms. After that, we'll look at where the remedies come from, how they're chosen for you specifically, and wrap up by looking at how it might fit into the bigger healthcare picture. Okay, let's jump right in. What is homeopathy? Well, if you boil it all down, the whole system is built on one big idea. It's a holistic approach to medicine. So according to our source, homeopathy is a holistic form of complementary medicine, aiming to treat the whole person rather than just the physical symptoms. You know, what that really means is it's not just about getting rid of a cough or a headache. It's about looking at the entire person who has that cough or headache. It's a bigger picture thing. And this whole holistic idea, it really comes from a core belief. The book puts it like this. The mind and body are so strongly linked that physical conditions cannot be successfully treated without an understanding of the person's constitution and character. So this mind-body connection, it's not just a small detail. It's absolutely central to how homeopathy works. And that idea leads us perfectly into our next point, focusing on the patient, not just the symptoms. This is really where you start to see how personal and individualized the whole approach is. Okay, so this is where things get really different from what you might be used to with conventional medicine. Think about it. The book points out that if two people walk into a doctor's office with the flu, they'll probably walk out with the same prescription, right? But in homeopathy, no way. The remedy you get depends on you, your personality, how you're feeling emotionally, your lifestyle, all of it. Which means two people could have the exact same cold but get two totally different homeopathic remedies. Kind of wild, huh? So, if every treatment is so unique, you might be wondering, where do all these remedies actually come from? Great question. That brings us to our next section, from nature to remedy. We're about to dive into what's known as the Materia Medica, which is basically the giant encyclopedia of everything used in homeopathy. So, according to the book, these remedies all start with natural stuff. A whole range of it, actually. They're usually grouped into what they call the three great kingdoms. You've got plants, minerals, and then things from the animal kingdom. Plants, for instance, are a huge deal in homeopathy. They're really a cornerstone of the whole system and are the source for a ton of the most well-known remedies. The basic idea is you take something from its natural plant form and, through a special process, it's prepared into a homeopathic treatment. And then you've got the mineral kingdom. This is the second major source. We're talking about everything from something as simple as table salt all the way to precious metals. And just like with plants, they're taken from their raw state and prepared into a remedy. And finally, to round out the big three, you have sources from the animal kingdom. All told, this encyclopedia we're using covers over 320 different remedies, all coming from these three natural sources. That's a pretty big toolkit for a practitioner to work with. Okay, so with hundreds of options to choose from, how in the world does a homeopath pick the right one for you? This is where it gets interesting. Let's actually walk through a real example from the book to make this whole thing a little less abstract. To see how this works, we're going to look at a plant called dulcamara, which you might also know as woody nightshade. Let's dig in and see what kind of person this remedy would be matched with. All right, check this out. This is where it's more of an art than a science, really. A homeopath isn't just looking for someone who says, I have a cold. No, they're digging for a super specific pattern. For dulcamara, they're looking for someone whose symptoms pop up when the weather changes from hot to cold. Or maybe they have a cold with thick yellow mucus. But then they go deeper. They ask, do you feel better when you're warm and dry? Do you feel worse in cold, damp weather or at night? You see? It's only when that entire unique pattern of symptoms matches the remedy's profile that they'll say, aha, dulcamara is the one. Now, it's really important to point out that the book itself is very clear about some safety stuff. It says, look, for serious problems, you need to consult a professional. And a big one, you should never, ever stop taking medicine prescribed by your regular doctor. And if your symptoms just aren't getting better, you need to seek conventional medical advice. This is all framed as just being responsible.
That whole idea of working with conventional medicine, not against it, brings us to our last section here. What about an integrated approach? Where does homeopathy see itself fitting into the big picture of healthcare?
Well, the author puts it really nicely. He says that an integrated approach to medicine can provide a flexible and pragmatic approach to healthcare. So the vision here isn't about replacing your doctor, not at all. It's about integration, about adding more tools to the toolbox for both patients and doctors.
So, why is this even a conversation? Well, the book suggests it's partly because more and more of us want to be involved in our own health decisions. We want to take responsibility. And that desire for more personal control is apparently leading some conventionally trained doctors to start looking into complementary therapies like homeopathy.
So, when you put it all together, the picture we get from this guide is a system that is incredibly individualized, right? It's all about natural remedies, a super strong belief in that mind-body connection, and it's all in service of treating the entire person. And that leaves us with a pretty big question to chew on, doesn't it? As more and more people look for healthcare that's personalized, that's holistic, could this kind of integrated approach be a sneak peek at the future of medicine?